I was working to make money, but I didn't need the money for the money. I needed the money so I could go back and buy my time back. I was a single full-time dad raising my son, and he came running in one day and said, Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today. And, I'm this proud dad. I think I'm doing everything right. I'm running my business. I'm building my business. I'm doing the things that I think I'm supposed to be doing. And I look at this picture and it's me standing in front of two computer screens and one phone in each ear ringing. And at the hands of a 6-year-old, I had a mirror into my soul. And I realized that the greatest gift that I was given, I was screwing up. I was disregarding. And no matter how I rationalized it, because it would have been easy for me to say, hey, kid, we need the profits. We need the money so I can have the roof over our head, so we can do the fun things, so we can do Disneyland. But we weren't doing it. And if he understood what profits were, my guess is he would have looked up at me and says, Dad, I don't need your profits. I need your presence. I realized that unless I was able to separate the earnings that I bring in from the efforts to make those earnings, I will always be imprisoned to the treadmill of earning.
Congratulations. You are a millionaire.
Yes.
Well done.
And so are you.
So we have now 1 million downloads of the Get the Hell Out of Debt podcast. And so we just want to thank you for your incredible support. We're celebrating with you today. We just feel like you are just the most amazing community on this planet, and we're really grateful for you. So thank you so much for supporting this crazy podcast.
Also, that makes me want to barf, just for the record. Like the fact that many people have listened to the dumb things that come out of my pie hole, that just makes me want to vomit a little.
Remember when we had 17,000 and you were like, oh, that's so many people. And I was like, that can fill the Saddle Dome, which is like our local arena. And you were like, no, like imagine you just standing in the middle of the Saddle Dome and being like, this one time I had a chin hair or whatever we talk about, It's weird. It's weird.
It's so weird. Just a quick second. I just have to barf a little. I'm just gonna barf. Oh, I love the balloons though. Like we're celebrating here. Like these balloons, we look so fancy.
We are so fancy. I love though that I have these crazy balloons, but yours are like so beautifully like hanging.
Listen, I like that you think that mine look professional. I want you to know that they are holding on with like dental floss back there. And I had to keep my cats away. And the one that I have in the back, I put it in the bathroom last night just to make sure that it wasn't going to deflate. Because the lady at the store was like, hey, listen, it's hot out, so don't let this anywhere near any heat. So I put it in the coldest room in my house just so it could last till today.
It looks gorgeous. I love it.
But in all seriousness, the only reason that we got to 1 million downloads is because of our awesome listeners and the fact that you all like and subscribe and you rate and review this, because the reviews really matter. I mean, I know that when I'm looking for something new, I read the reviews and I look at the ratings, and I'm not going to waste my time with something that doesn't have good feedback. So thank you to everybody that's done that. And if you've liked a particular episode and you've shared it with your friends, that means a lot too. So sending those links, thank you for doing that also.
Thank you. And what's also cool is the messages that we get when people say, like, I first heard the podcast in January and I've binged every episode. That's like the biggest compliment too. That's actually one of the best ways to learn financial literacy, is to immerse yourself into it. So anytime you're learning any new language, it's really cool to just get as much of the information as you can. And obviously we have the books and we have the Audible books and we have the Kindle books and we have the online program for Get the Hell Out of Debt. And all of those add up to a way for you to immerse yourself in this content. But it's because of you binge listeners too that are like, you get so involved in our lives. If we run an episode and then we don't follow up on that episode for a couple of days, we get emails from you going, how's your cat? What's going on with your husband? So we love that. We feel connected to you. We love that you feel connected to us. And it's really meaningful to us to have hit this milestone. And you know what they say, Carrie, the first million is the hardest.
And then what? It's going to get easier from here?
Well, when it comes to money, actually, becoming a millionaire is easier than you think. I think it's the psychological thing that you have to get over. And it's really hard to see when you're stuck in debt. Like $1 million sounds like so much money when you are trying to like make enough money to make a credit card payment. So it's really tough to see. But there's no better guest to take you where you want to go than the one that we've lined up for today. He's so amazing, and it's so meaningful to me that he came today to celebrate this millionaire episode. But that first million is the hardest. And what you do after that first million is it's more about tweaking and accelerating than it is about creating. In sort of that first run up, it's like people who are in phase 1 or phase 2 of the Get the Hell Out of Debt program. You have to almost like undo the momentum that you'd been doing to get you in debt. And so that reversal of habits and mindset and thinking and behaviors and math and all of that takes a long time. But once you start to accelerate towards increasing your net worth, and then you start to accelerate towards a net worth goal, like let's say you want to be a millionaire, for example. Once you start to accelerate towards that, it gets easier the closer you get. It's almost like a snowball in the opposite direction. So it does actually get easier. But once that snowball's going, all you have to do is kind of tweak it and adjust little tiny things as you go. You don't have to kind of overhaul or make over your whole financial life like you do when you're starting to get the hell out of debt.
I'm super excited to talk to this person today too, because here's the thing, everybody. If you didn't already know this after 1 million downloads, Erin knows all the people in the industry. I know 0 people in the industry. So when she told me that this is who we were going to talk to today, I'm like, oh, that's great. Like Erin was so excited about it. And I'm like, I know nothing. And so I did a deep dive to go find out about Mel Abraham. And this is just something that I saw on his website. It says Mel learned how to build a business from nothing after a partnership breakup left him with no clients, no cash flow, no work backlog, and almost $500,000 in debt. It was during this time where Mel rebuilt his business and life that he got what he calls his greatest business lesson from a 6-year-old boy. Like, I can't wait to learn more about this. He says that same year was when Mel became a single full-time dad of a 6-year-old son. Shortly after that, his son gave Mel the vision of how his son saw him by drawing a picture of him. It was this picture that woke Mel up to the realization that it isn't about business for business sake, but business for life's sake, and that it is more important to get the meaning of business right before focusing on the mechanics of business.
Really cool. He's written a book that I think is so great. And this is what I wanted to talk to him about today. It's called Building Your Money Machine. And that picture that you're talking about is actually in the book. He's absolutely all of those things that you describe. And what's meaningful to me is he's one of the most sincere people in the industry, and he absolutely has a heart to serve. And that's what I love about him. He's not coming at this from some high horse or like one of those bras that's like, you can work from anywhere if you follow my system and pay me $37,000 a month. He's like a real human being. And everything you need to know is in this book. As you know, I'm constantly writing books on money. And one of the questions I often get is, what happens when I'm finished paying off my debt? How do I build wealth? I don't need to write the book anymore. It's right here. It's right here. It's so good. I was blown away. So I can't wait for you to meet him.
Mel, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
We're always talking here about the correlation between wealth leverage, like financial leverage, and time leverage. And you do such a great job in the book, Building Your Money Machine, which I'm going to hold up for the 400th time because I really think it's important that you order this. We'll put the link in the show notes for you. But you talk about how time is the greatest currency, not dollars. Can you explain that concept? Because I think it's foundational to everything that you teach.
I started in this game of, I got obsessed with, I got to make money, not for the money's sake, but because I thought it would give me all these other things, status, attention, and I would be accepted, and all those things that actually were completely wrong. I was working to make money, but I didn't need the money for the money. I needed the money so I could go back and buy my time back. Because what happened is, and going back a little ways, I was a single full-time dad raising my son, and he came running in one day and said, Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today. And I'm this proud dad. I think I'm doing everything right. I'm running my business. I'm building my business. I'm doing the things that I think I'm supposed to be doing. And I look at this picture and it's me standing in front of 2 computer screens and one phone in each ear ringing. And at the hands of a 6-year-old, I had a mirror into my soul. And I realized that the greatest gift that I was given, I was screwing up. I was disregarding. And no matter how I rationalized it, because it would have been easy for me to say, hey, kid, we need the profits. we need the money so I can have the roof over our head, so we can do the fun things, so we can do Disneyland. But we weren't doing it. If he understood what profits were, my guess is he would have looked up at me and says, Dad, I don't need your profits. I need your presence. And that's the thing that pained me so much, but it was the thing that I realized until, because I came from that CPA world. So we were the worst business model in the world. Let's punch a timesheet and swap hours for dollars. There's no better way to commoditize your worth than to do it math equation. So I realized that unless I was able to separate the earnings that I bring in from the efforts to make those earnings, I will always be imprisoned to the treadmill of earning.
Mm.
Wow. Right now, I'm pausing because everybody's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, that's me. And the piece about I don't need your profits, I need your presence is so powerful. That's a tough shift to make, though.
Yeah, it
You
is.
make it sound like you went like this.
Oh, no. It took a lot of examination. Plus, I had to rethink the industry. I had to rethink everything that I was taught about how to make money. Look, I got a CPA license. The CPA license taught me about the CPA world, but it also taught me how to use a timesheet, copy last year's work papers, and just serve time. But it never taught me about wealth. It never taught me about the richness in life. It never taught me about how to live a life that was meaningful and fulfilling. And so that moment is when I started to examine and say, is it a situation where the two things couldn't coexist?
Right.
Being a good parent, being a good dad, taking care of the things that are really meaningful and important in life, and try to have a professional path or a career path or an entrepreneurial path. Can it coexist? And that's when I started looking at the models. I had a lot of people saying, hey, you got to get work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggled with it because I don't think we want balance. Because balance to me was this two counterweights playing tug of war all the time, which creates friction and tension, and it's difficult. What we want is we want harmony. We want harmony, and harmony isn't about equality. Harmony is about intention, being intentional with our time. And it wasn't until I became ultra intentional with what I did with my time that I was able to feel like I had control of things. I could have $100 million in the bank account, but if I don't control my time, I'm living a poor life. And that's the challenge. And so with Jeremy, he was 6. One of the things that I did with him, and it translates to money, interestingly enough, is I created this big calendar because I was traveling, I was speaking, I was doing things, and there was red zones on the calendar. And he knew that those red zones were his. They were absolutely immovable.
This is exactly
He
what Aaron
also knew
teaches
that-
everybody too. It's just that you've got to block it out. You've got to figure out your entire year all at once. And the stuff that's important gets put in there first. And that's always family.
I totally agree with it. The other piece of it was he also knew.
Do you want more? I know you do. Why wouldn't you want more?
Or
of
what? What do I want more of?
more of this? Come hang out in the online course, Forget the Hell Out of Debt. The link is in the description. You just got to click it, sign up, and we'll see you in there.
The other piece of it was he also knew that any other color on that calendar he could change to red if he needed it. He's 34 today, married to a beautiful gal. They've got 2 young kids. The thing that they do, and he kind of took this, is being intentional with their time. They intentionally decided to be in professions that gave them flexibility. And it's important because we talk about money, but I don't think you should ever talk about money without connecting it to life. So one thing that they've done is they find a country and they take a month and they go work in that country for a month because they have mobile jobs that they can do that. And they take the kids and they get an Airbnb. And I look at it and I go, you're going to go for a month? He says, well, think about it. He said, even if we work there, he says, for a month, I have 4 weeks. We have 4 weekends. That gives us 8 days. He says, if you're going to go on vacation, most of the time you're going to go on vacation for a week anyways, but why not go for a month? We experience everything. We have the kids experience everything while they're young, and we still have plenty of time, but we experience it in a bigger way. So they're living intentionally. And I think it's those moments that actually are the things that give us the richness in our life that really drive everything. And so everything started to look at, how do I control my moments? And how do I control that? And the way I can control that is to have the ability to have a life of choice and give those options. And too often, I think we feel that we, one, don't have choice. Two, we allow something else or someone else to dictate what the day looks like. We get up and we look at our inbox, and that decides what our day is.
Yes.
I think we need to not do that anymore.
Well, it's interesting you say the thing about the CPA and the lifestyle and the punching the clock, because a large percentage of the people we deal with at Get the Hell Out of Debt are people in the financial services industry. So many realtors, mortgage brokers, bankers, people who are advising other people financially who are trapped in that cycle. So you've just helped so many people just even with that mindset shift alone. So brilliant. Okay, this piece, though, you kind of just alluded to it, but I know in the book, you talk about how humans often show up with half of what they could give. And then when they don't get the results they want, they validate themselves and say, see, I shouldn't have done it, right? That's a powerful awareness that most people don't have that they're doing.
Yeah.
But then you go on to suggest that we're asking the wrong primary question. So instead of saying, how do I make $1 million? You say, we need to be asking, do I have the courage to step in and do the things that make millionaires? Wow. So what are some of the other shifts mindset-wise that people need to make here?
One of the first things is to realize that anytime we choose a path that's going to require some sort of sacrifice. Time, effort, money, study, dedication, something. And I got to ask myself, am I prepared to pay the price? And what that does for me is I don't use it as a stopping block, but I use it as a sorting thing. So the things that matter will move to the top, and I'm willing to pay the price and do the sacrifice and do the things that happen. Because there's a lot of people that set goals. And this is a big thing. And in my first book, I talked about goal settings. And the funny thing is, if I wrote that today, it would be different. It would be something that says it's about goal getting and not goal setting. We set goals as aspirations. And I think we want too much in our life. It's easy to set a list of goals. We do it at the end of the year. We say, I want to lose weight. I want to be a better dad or mom. I want to have a better relationship, more intimacy, whatever. We want to be financially free. We want to get out of debt. And they say, January, February, most of those goals are lost. You've already broken the resolutions. And the problem is that a goal is a want. And a want is soft, fuzzy, and fluffy. What I think we need to do is set wills, to make declarations, to take the 2, 3, or 4 things that really matter in our life and say, I will do this. And people are scared to do it because as soon as I say I will, that means I must. As soon as I tell people I will, they're watching. Okay. Right. When I say I want to lose weight, they go, all right, how you doing? Nah, you know what? I'm going to start the diet next week. Okay. But when you say I will, it's a different game. So I think that when we start to look down this path of financial freedom, getting out of debt, building wealth, you got to examine, am I committed to this? Am I declaring it? Or am I just desiring it? Desire isn't enough. The commitment and the declaration to do the things, because getting out of debt, building wealth, having financial freedom is less about the money and way more about the behaviors and the habits and the choices you make. And I have a lot of people, when they come to me, they say, I got money issues. I says, no, you don't. And they go, what? I said, you have money symptoms. And they go, what? And I said, oh yeah, there's symptoms of the choices, decisions, and behaviors you had in the past. I said, I know it's confronting, but it should be empowering too. Because if we just change the behaviors. Now here's why I know this. Did a study of 10,000 millionaires. 79% were first generation, meaning that they created it in their lifetime. Wasn't gifted, wasn't inherited, none of that. So 8 out of 10, y'all, that is good odds for us, okay? 31% of them never made much more than $100,000 annually. It's not about the money you make. It's about what you do with it. It's about the behaviors. And so if we're not where we're at, then we need to change our behaviors, change our choices, change our decisions, which means that we have to be in a position of declaring it, willing it, and committing to it if we're ever going to change. Otherwise, it's just a wish.
Wow. Yes. So powerful and so true. Yeah. It's about that. Am I willing to do the things that are going to get there? Not, enough income coming in or whatever. The money machine, which was one of my favorite terms to use, I was just blown away. And I was sitting there reading the book at LAX, and this woman leaned over. She goes, "Is that a book about ATMs?"
Yes, indirectly.
I was like, kind of. It kind of is. So can you explain to everybody what a money machine actually is?
It comes from a couple places. One was when I realized I had to separate my ability to earn from the efforts to earn it. That meant we got educated and brought up in a world of, hey, go get a good job, make a career, get a professional path, make money, make money, make money. They focused on the earning side of the equation as if the earning side would solve all our problems. And if it did, you would see people that made lots of money have lots of freedom, assets, and wealth, but you don't, okay? Look at Nicolas Cage, Burt Reynolds, Mike Tyson, Willie Nelson, all these people that had lots and lots of money. They lost it all. Some still have got nothing. Some built it back up. But the point was that they gave us half the equation. And they were able to do it in a time when we had the industrial age type of concept of pensions. Because at that point, we could sit back and say, I can work all my life for this company, and I can spend and do some things and do some savings. But in the end, they're going to give me a lifetime of income for the rest of my life. That's a pension. But we all started living too long, and it got too expensive. So unless you're in the military or government, most likely there aren't any pensions anymore. And they handed us 401ks, and they handed us brokerage accounts, and they handed us IRAs and things like that. But not only did they hand us that, if you were in a pension, you didn't have to think about it. You were in the pension. I'm on a pension committee. We run a fund of 50 million. And none of the participants have to worry about the investments, the investment decisions, any of that. They just know that it's being managed by a committee. We're taking care of it. They get their benefit payments when they're eligible, and that's it. It's managed. But when they did away with it and they handed it to us, they gave us all the management responsibility, the decision responsibility. How much do I invest? When do I invest? What do I invest in? All those things that we never had to worry about, but they didn't give us the tools and the information to deal with it. And so we didn't know that what they did is they took away the money machine that we once had. And now it was in our laps to create our own. So when I look at it, and this is where I come into something I talk about in the book, The 5 Incomes, is that there's 5 levels of income that we can earn. Some are leveraged income, meaning that it doesn't require as much of my effort or time to generate the income. That's where our money machine will be built. But too often we're down at the bottom 2. So there's 5 of them. At the bottom 2 requires a lot of our time. Active income, that's your job, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs in many cases. It's a personal brand. It's that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That is a high effort, high earning kind of situation. The connection is 1-to-1. We go one step up, that is business income. Now all of a sudden we realize I need a little more of my time back. So we use the money we're making to hire people, to get people to do stuff at the house or in the company to get our time back. But it still requires us. So those bottom 2 rungs still require our effort. And we can't get away from it. Now, I make money in both of those. But what we want to look at is the next 3. That's where our money machine is built, because what we're doing is creating what I call leveraged income. I don't like the term passive income. Passive insinuates set it, forget it, don't worry about it. And I think we have a relationship with money, with wealth, with our journey to financial freedom. And just like any relationship, my wife and I just passed 13 years married. We wouldn't have passed 13 minutes if I took a passive attitude to our relationship. So I like the term leverage, meaning that I'm always involved somehow, but the extent of it lessens.
It's not just like handing you that check like a pension would be, but you're looking at it, you're optimizing it, you're maximizing returns or doing what you need to do, but you're not trading 40 hours a week to do that.
Exactly. And you're at least checking the pulse on the patient. Is the patient still breathing? So then the next piece of leveraged income is asset-based income. This is when we acquire real estate, equipment, other assets that I might be able to lease or rent out. It takes effort at the beginning, but it takes a lot less effort to maintain over time. And so now I have income coming in where it's not a one-on-one relationship. Then you have next step up is residual income. Create something that's meaningful that I can get paid on a regular basis. The one that people will be familiar with is songwriters, actors, actresses, directors. They created this creative thing and they're getting paid on it regularly. My book, some white labeling of some of my stuff that I get paid on a regular basis. The book from 2015, I still get checks on. It's investing time up front to create something that will pay dividends and income later. And then the third level up, the top level of the 5 incomes, is portfolio income. This is what we typically think of as investments, stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds, mutual funds, things like the paper assets. It takes the least amount of time, and that's why it's at the top. So it's the most leveraged income that we can create. And so the money machine for everyone should be built on the top 3: asset-based income, residual income, and portfolio income. The mix of them is determined by the lifestyle you want. It's not a sequence. Oh, I got to go buy assets, then residual. No. I want 80% of your lifestyle or more paid for by cash flow from those top 3. Now, I have some friends that love real estate. So the majority of their stuff's in real estate. I love real estate. I just don't like being a landlord.
Right.
And so I don't want the call at 11 o'clock at night that the toilet's clogged. Go get a plunger. I have no idea. Okay?
I love those calls. I was just telling somebody this the other day. I was like, listen, if I told you I'm going to pay you $50,000 a year and you don't have to do anything except for 3 times this year, I'm going to phone you at random times of the day. You got to fish somebody's dirty condoms, you got to get a plumber and whatever and pay the plumber. Would you do it? And everybody says yes. So those calls are not the worst thing. I'm just saying.
They're not. So I have real estate, but I have real estate where I'm removed from the management of it.
Right.
And do it that way. But I make money from all 5 income categories. Right now, all the money that I make from asset, residual, and portfolio is reinvested to build those 3 even larger, the money machine larger. Your money machine is those top 3 income streams. So it's building a group of assets, whether it's residual income, asset-based income, or portfolio income, that's going to generate cash flow to support your lifestyle. Because now you have a life of choice. Now you get a chance to decide, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. And the power of this, for me, really became glaringly clear in 2019. Because in 2019, I had been speaking, I'd been traveling, everything was going great. I just
met
finished
me
a launch.
again at the Kajabi conference in April.
Oh, yes, we did.
And then
we
a couple
did.
of months later. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was a couple months after that. They found what they thought was a 5-centimeter tumor in my bladder. And it turned out to be 7.5 centimeters. No one in my family's ever had cancer. I'm not a smoker, I'm not a drinker. I have a sweet tooth, but so in a moment, everything shifted. And I look at it, and so I was sitting with my wife and my son, and I said, life's changed. We're shutting everything down. Okay, I'm no longer speaking. I'm not on the road. So those bottom 2 rungs of the 5 incomes, I said, we're taking that down to like 10%. So we shut it down, and I talked to my wealth team. I said, the top 3, the money that's generated from there, send it to me. And it allowed us to continue to live and keep our lifestyle without draining accounts, without selling things, without downsizing, without anything. But more importantly, it allowed me choice. It allowed me the choice of the doctors. It allowed me the choice of what I needed to do. I was seeing every therapist, every possible modality possible. I didn't know what was going to work, but I knew doggone well I was going to hit it with everything I had. And thinking back on that journey, I don't know what would have happened if I had to work for a living during the day and fight for my life at night. And I didn't have to do that. And it was the gift that the money machine gave me.
am just blown away by how people will hear this and they'll say, "Oh, you're so lucky." But that really was all intentional. You did not know you were going to get diagnosed with that in
Yeah.
2019. But because you have the tools, you absolutely can prepare for anything. And I think it's important to consider, because I think sometimes people think, well, I'm 50 years old. It's too late for me. I'm never going to build wealth. Now is the perfect time to start, because you don't know what your health is going to look like at 65. You're a healthy dude. You weren't smoking, like you
Yeah.
said. You might have had one too many cupcakes once in a while, but
Yeah.
who hasn't, right? And so it's cool that you were really living out this lesson in a way that's like powerful and tangible. Because the other thing you talk about is, let's imagine you are healthy and that money machine's there and it's just feeding itself. It's pouring money back into itself and it's growing bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. Still with that active income, I think the word you used was leapfrogging. You can leapfrog by continuing to work while you're able and enjoying, and be it where you're at, which is this level of service, and just serve and enjoy, and then just keep feeding that machine. And then when you need to take a break, it's going to still keep doing what it's doing. It could even potentially even grow. You were telling it to send money to you, but I'm assuming it wasn't dwindling down.
No, it actually still grew. It just didn't grow as fast.
Right.
Yeah.
And now here you are leapfrogging again in your
Yeah.
impeccable health. I think that's so powerful.
I agree that you can hear people saying, well, lucky you. Two things. It wasn't luck. It was a math equation. And two, I certainly didn't plan for the cancer. I just knew that I wanted to have control of my time, and finance principles are finance principles. It wasn't get rich quick. It was get in the game, stay in the game, play the game long term. The thing that I realized is that you will not win the wealth game sitting on the sidelines or the stands. You have to be on the field. And too many people won't get on the field. And most of the time, they say, well, I'm scared. And I can get it. There can be fears in life, but this isn't a life-threatening fear. Fear when it comes to finances is an indication that something is missing. You lack something. I call it the stack of lack in the book. It is something that you lack clarity, you lack understanding or information, you lack support, you lack action, you lack commitment, you lack a plan. There's something missing. So answer the missing question.
Yes.
And get in the game. And it might be, I got to pick up a book and learn. I got to get a course and understand. And I don't care whether you're right brain, left brain, creative, logical. It's a learnable skill. And your freedom is on the other side of that math equation. We have to look at it and say, okay, I may not like math, but it doesn't take a lot of math, but it does take just discipline and understanding.
And it's available to every income, which I think is important to know. Like you said earlier, when you were referencing that study, most of the people who are millionaires or financially free have an income under $100,000, which means if you earn $30,000 right now and you're starting out, you can start to build your money machine right now by making those shifts that you're talking about.
The more time we have, the less money we need to build our machine. The less time we have, the more money we need. It's just the way it works. But the other side of it is, because I hear that also, I'm 40 or I'm 50 and isn't it too late? What's the alternative? Because the alternative is, well, Social Security. Okay, Social Security, forget the politics of whether it be around and that type of thing. But even right now, your max amount that you're going to get paid is like $2,000. That's about $400 above the poverty level. It's not a solution. So your solution is Social Security or your kid's couch. Neither one is appealing.
Right.
And I would argue that even if you got in the game and you thought you were late, and we got you 50% closer to where you need to be, you're still 50% better than where you were. And so I'd rather have you fight the good fight, get in the game, get closer to the finish line than you were before, then settle, give up, throw your hands up and say, I wish I would have. Let's just get in the game now.
Don't you find though, when people start moving in that direction, it's like something changes in their DNA almost, like, and they start to get it and they do then achieve it. It's like the momentum of starting that money machine is the hardest part. But once you get it, you're finding that money that you need in order to hit those goals, because it's available and accessible if your machine is set up in a way that's going to allow you to continue to compound.
I think that with your understanding, you'll raise your awareness and you'll see more opportunities to make money, use money differently, and have it work for you more effectively. There's a friend of mine that we literally had a conversation at lunch, him and his wife and I, and he sent me a text. It was a number of years ago, but he started in January and he says, I now have $85,000 put away. And it's way more than that today. He says, but the big keys is I'm actually starting to love this investing lifestyle. Like all of a sudden, it became this game that he was playing. I wonder how much we can put away. They have two beautiful kids. They're not living on mac and cheese. If you do not enjoy, if you don't find joy on the path to financial freedom, you will not find joy in the destination of it. So what I tell people is when we start anything with money, you always start with the vision for your life. That's the thing that informs everything. And the tendency is, I'm going to look at my checking account, I'm going to look at my bank account, I'm going to look at the numbers. That's going to put you into a pit of despair, stress, and angst. Let's start with the dream. And I understand that it's going to give us a gap, but the dream will then inform the plan. The plan will set a strategy. The strategy will determine the tactics. The tactics will set the actions. The problem for most of us is that we're dealing with things at the tactic and action level without understanding where we want to go. And so I think that when you start with the vision of what your life is, then it can give you the tools and the strategy to make it a reality and get you close to it. But it also gives you the ability to discern and say, is this going to move me closer to that vision? So your spending habits are then redefined through the eyes of your vision and not temptation, which is what's happening with most people right now, is they're driven by temptation or peer pressure or media or social media or comparison. When you do that and you say, that's the vision for life, and you create the plan, I tell people in the plan, I want to make sure that you have 2 to maximum 4 joy points of your life. These are the things that you absolutely love, that they're sustainable joy things that bring, like for my wife and I, we love to travel. But we know that those memories are really, really important to us. So we make sure that that's in the plan. And we use that as the thing that brings us the majority of our joy, and not allow momentary pleasures that come in through TikTok or Instagram to govern our choices in life. Because if we haven't funded the joy points, we have no business funding a momentary pleasure that is going to be gone tomorrow.
Yes. Ooh, these little TED Talks you're dropping are hot. They're good. They're good.
I am sitting here taking notes. I'm not sure if you've noticed that I've been furiously taking notes. This is amazing. I love everything that you have said, and I plan to listen to this already multiple times because you've just given us so much gold today. I want to know, can you share one actionable item as soon as I'm done listening to this that I can go do today to start building my money machine?
I'm going to give you 2.
Okay.
Because one is something that people think is odd, but it's important. The first thing I think you always have to do is, if you're in a committed relationship with anyone in your life, that you start the conversation about what you want for the dream in your life, that you start the conversation around the vision. Because the challenge with most couples, they say that money is the second leading cause of divorce. It's not money. I don't think it's money. I think it's the conversations around money. It's the inability to communicate. And the reason we can't communicate is because we're talking at tactical level and action level. When we're talking about how much did you spend this much at the salon or at the golf club, that isn't about vision. That's about accusation. And that's never going to bode well for a relationship. And so we never start a couple's conversation at the action tactic level. We always deal with a vision, but we need to open those conversations and have the conversation about what do we want in our life? Because then that'll allow us to set a strategy, and we will each then know our role in making it a reality. So I think that the first thing is for us to get in a real conversation that lacks judgment, but is more around the aspiration, the desire, and the destination we want to go to. Then the next step is, depending on your stage or your circumstance, the first thing I look at is I want to make sure that you have an unshakable foundation first. So safety first, growth second. And so the unshakable foundation is, if you are not putting money away, if you are not saving, if you are not doing that, that's the first thing. Start exercising the muscle and putting money away. I want you to start exercising the muscle. And I can hear people saying, I can barely pay my bills, and so I'll wait till I make more. No, if you don't develop the good habits when you're making little, you won't do it when you make a lot. And so even if it's $5, I simply want you to exercise the muscle. You're getting into the money gym. You're going there and you're going to put it away. And it's that contagion that will continue to grow. But the very first thing is to start putting money away. In conjunction with this, it's time to examine where our money's coming from and where our money's going. I need to get really critical about wants, needs, and I can do withouts. Very rarely will I tell someone, don't buy that. Don't spend on that. It's not my place. It's their place to define their life the way they want. What I do want everyone to do is to understand the full consequences of any choices they make, and that they make all their money choices intentionally, conscious, and aware. So here's why I say that. I have a kid that cuts my hair. He's 23 years old. And he tells me about his friend one time, and the story's in the book, but tells me about his friend who bought a $5,000 watch. And I said, does he make a lot of money? He says, no, he's like my age. He's like 21, 22. I said, so why would he do that? And he said, well, his friends thought it was cool. It might be, and I'm a watch guy. I said, kid, I'm going to do some math for you. If he put that money away at $5,000, at 20 years old, if you put money away into an S&P 500 fund, it will multiply 88 times by the time he's retirement age.
See, Carrie,
So
I'm not
call
the
it-
only one who walks around with a compound interest calculator. Okay.
I look at it and I go, so yeah, he spent $5,000 on a watch to impress a couple of dudes that probably won't be in his life in about 3 years. Okay. Now, that's cool, but it's only cool if he understood that by doing so, he foregone $400,000 in a nest egg down the road. And so all I want him to do is say, I understand it. I'm willing to do it. I'm good with it. If you do it that way, conscious, aware, and intentional, I'm good. But my guess is people don't think that way. And so I don't want people to not spend. I just want them to be smart about it and be willing to say, hey, I'm good with it. And so that's where you start to examine all the money that's going out the door and say, is this really giving me value? Is it giving me joy? Is this something I need? And if it isn't, we're going to move it to investing. We're going to move it to getting out of destructive debt. We're going to move it into what I call the wealth priority ladder in the book that gives you specifically the hierarchy of what to do with each dollar when it comes in.
Which I love. I love a book that's step by step. I was telling Carrie, I wish I'd written this book. It's so well done. I really wish I had. The other piece that I think you did so well, which I've not seen done and of course, you're probably like me where you read all the financial books all the time. But the question we get sometimes is like, how will I know when I have enough? Which is such an interesting question because it tells more about the person who's asking the question than anything else. But you talk about the financial freedom journey and you break it down so well. There's different milestones along the way. And even I was like, oh, this is cool. I can see where I'm at in this journey and where I also want to be, right? So you talk about financial stability, financial security, financial independence, and financial freedom. Can you quickly explain the difference between those for us?
We get in the conversation and we say, all right, your freedom number is 5 million and you're sitting there in debt and you go, yeah, that's never happening. And you just kind of give up. Here's the deal. We have to pass through gateways. We have to pass through milestones. It's like I drive a Tesla. And if you go on a long journey and you put it in the GPS, it routes you to a charger so you can charge it on the way to the destination. And I look at these gateways as these temporary stopping points to say, hey, you're on the path. And the first gateway is what I call financial stability. This is at a point where you have accumulated enough of a money machine, enough of an asset pool, that it will pay for your survival, that it will cover your needs. And when I say needs, it's your food, your shelter, your clothes, your health care, and your transportation. That's it. It's not Netflix. It's not mani-pedis. It's not the latest technology. It's not sports events. It's nothing. It is simply your survival. But when I know that I've accumulated enough that my needs are met, I'm stable. I'm okay. And just the mere fact that I can say I'm stable and my needs are met will give us a little bit less angst. It will give us some relaxation. But if we keep looking at, well, I still have to get to that $5 million number, the angst is still there. And I want people to relax and enjoy the journey. And so stability is the first step. Security, financial security is the next. And that is when you accumulate enough that it not only covers the needs, but it covers your current expenses. So my current lifestyle doesn't change. So if my needs are $2,000 a month, one thing's for certain, you don't live in California. But my current expenses are $5,000 a month. Then at the security level, I need to be generating $5,000 a month to cover that. So now I have financial security because I know that my current lifestyle isn't going to change. And then we come to the next gateway, which is financial independence. And this is when I have enough income coming in that it replaces 100% of my current income. So if it's costing me $5,000 a month to pay my expenses, but I'm making $7,000 in income a month, and I have that $2,000 extra, at the independence level, I am living in a place where I can choose to work for the $7,000 or not choose to work and still make the $7,000. And so now I have financial independence. I have complete choice. And then financial freedom. Financial freedom is that last gateway. This is where affluence lies. This is where you take that vision that you had and you say that the machine has the ability to pay for the funding of the dream. And now I've hit financial freedom. And so those are the four gateways, the four levels, or the financial liberation journey, as I call it in the book, that I think we all pass through. No matter where we start and where we are, we will pass through this, but we use them as vehicles to say, one, I'm on the right path. Two, I see where I am for the next milestone or the next gateway.
Yes.
And three, I'm doing okay.
Yeah. I think when people read the book, I think they're going to see how much easier it actually is because you've laid everything else out in the book before that point, and then you hit them with this. And it's like, as soon as you do your own numbers and you realize, wow, actually, if my expenses are this much, I don't have to have 300 million in the bank. I just need $2,000 a month. And so it gives you like a really attainable place to start.
Here's the other thing that I think is powerful, because I totally agree with you, is the tendency is to believe that our wealth creation is linear. And it's not. So watch what happens. If I want to have $1 million, and let's say I'm going to put $10,000 away at 8%, it's going to take me 7.6 years to get my first 100,000. And the first 100,000 is the hardest for a lot of reasons. You got to pass that threshold because you don't have the skills, you don't have the habits, you don't have the decision making. All that stuff's got to be learned in that first 100,000, and it will be. But it takes 7.6 years to get to that first 100,000. To get to the halfway point, $500,000 at $10,000 a year at 8% will take you 20.6 years. So you're halfway. But to get to the million, that last $500,000, it only takes 7.5 more years. You will make that last $500,000 in less time than you made the first 100,000. The power of getting in the game and staying in the game, getting past what I call in the book the wealth flatline, is huge. But what we don't have, especially in today's society, is the patience, the discipline, the dedication to stay in the game long term and allow the money to work for us at a level that it can. And that's the challenge. So it's not linear, it's exponential, but we have to get in the game and let it play out.
Mel Abraham, you are phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you got to meet my best friend because that's so cool.
Yes.
I'm so grateful that you are here on our celebration episode of 1 million downloads because it feels like such an honor to me that not only did you do this wonderful episode, which has breathed life into so many people, but I get to thank you for all of those years ago, you breathing life into me, which allowed us to reach these million people. And so the ripple effect of the work that you do is powerful. And I'm so grateful. I'm trying not to get choked up, but I'm so grateful and honored. And I cannot wait to see the impact that this book has on everybody who reads it going forward.
It's such a gift. You gave me chills with what you said. The selfish reason the book was written was to deal with the psychological elements of cancer for me. It was a healing journey. And part of it was because I couldn't figure out why I had the cancer. I tried to find something in my past to blame, something I did, someone I wronged, something. There has to be a reason. And one day, a dear friend, I was on the phone with him struggling because the cancer had come back and we had to fight it a second time. And I was walking on the beach and he said, "You keep looking in your past for the reason." I said, "Yes." And he said, "What if it isn't something you did, but something you were meant to do?" And that is what got me to birth this book, is because I fought the cancer in all aspects, but I didn't fight it financially. And I saw that so many people were struggling financially because of the pandemic, because of the lack of information, the lack of guidance, the lack of belief. And I said, if that's the message, now the cancer has value to me and it has value to other people. And that's the reason the book got out there.
Incredible.
I need a nap now. I am so spent from that interview. I feel like my brain is so full that I need to go and just go for a walk or something. I need to just go absorb all of the nuggets of wisdom that he shared with us.
Yeah, he's brilliant. That's why I think the book is so great. It's one of those ones, I talk about this a lot, where there's a few books in my life that I read over and over and over again because I get so much out of them every time I read them. And so that's why I read the book as the Kindle, but then I ordered it because I'm like, this has got to be on my bookshelf because I know I'm going to use it and reference it time and time and time again because it's so brilliant. He poured everything into that book. That was so cool for me. I just feel like it's so cool to be able to reconnect in a meaningful way. And I'm just so grateful for his time. That was phenomenal. I know people are going to watch this episode, save this download, and re-listen, re-watch it over and over again because there's so much in there. But I think that's why getting the book is so important because you're going to be able to write your notes in there. You're going to be able to see how far you've come. You're going to be able to set goals. He didn't mention this. I can't believe he didn't mention this. He has a downloadable workbook, which you can get by scanning the code in the book, which I think acts as an amazing companion guide to that book. And of course, you can follow him on Instagram and YouTube and all of the places. But he's brilliant. And I think that Building Your Money Machine is an absolute must-have in your library.
I think it's very cool that this all worked out, like that it was some sort of big cosmic great thing that worked out, that it's our millionth download. We're celebrating that now. You've heard from Mel and he's going to make you a millionaire.
Yeah, honestly, if you just do what his book tells you to do, step by step, you will be, there's no question. You'll get where you need to go.
Listen, I'm very proud of you and this little podcast that you started 100 years ago. And you started and basically were recording it from what, a closet initially?
Yeah, I think the first week I had 500 downloads in the beginning, which was huge for a podcast.
Yeah.
But I think I knew all 500 of the people. So it is really cool. And I am really grateful. And you've made it a million times better. So I'm so glad you're here and we get to do this together. The first million was apparently the hardest. So who knows where we're going to be next.
According to Mel, we're just going to snowball and this is going to really take off. So thanks to everybody that's already been here doing all the things for us, because I feel like pretty soon I'm going to pay someone to replace my toilet paper rolls or something, because
So it's
why not?
changed, has it? This million downloads has changed you.
It might.
Are
I'm
you gonna
not
start
saying.
drinking with your pinky up in the air and wearing a frilly hat or a fascinator of some kind?
You never know.